The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
The blowout we've all been waiting for as the Suns get another sweet, sweet win over the Los Angeles Lakers.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast.
Remember, how are we feeling? Late Tuesday here after this win, Ben Garcia.
That's kind of like the fun of being here after every game is me and you battling the elements. But I think the listeners and the everydayers enjoy that. Like, they know we're there. They know we're watching. We literally have to watch the game. But I will start off today, Brendan, by asking you and every everydayer that's listening a trivia question. Who was the last team to beat the Los Angeles Lakers in an NBA Cup game?
It's never happened.
It has never happened. History was made tonight. The Suns defeat the Los Angeles Clippers in an NBA Cup game
Lakers.
for the first. Who did I say?
Clippers.
Ah, whatever. Both garbage.
They beat the Clippers already, too.
Both garbage organizations beat the Los Angeles Lakers in an NBA Cup game for the first time ever, which is the most
The reigning NBA Cup champion.
That basically makes us Cup champions. Hang up the damn banner, Brendan. Hang up the damn banner after that ass kicking.
It was a wonderful one.
It was a good time. It was a good
Not
time.
seeing this team again until March, but obviously the Suns go 2-1 early in the season here in their 3 matchups against this Lakers team. This one wasn't close. I don't even think I've said the final score, 127-100. Let's not waste any time getting to our moments of the game here. Mine is this, it was, I believe, a 19-2 run at one point. It ends on a 26-8 run to close out the third quarter for the Suns, led in large part by Devin Booker, who scored 9 straight points midway through this quarter, pull-up 3, getting to the free throw line, scoring over Austin Reeves. Third quarters were the bread and butter of this team. I mean, I know we all harped on the late game clutch moments and everything, but these third quarters were exactly when they made their mark on that winning streak. It was really nice to just see them fully hit the ground running, not only with the win and everybody playing well, but the how of it. That's called making an identity, and it felt like, okay, flush that losing streak down the toilet. That stretch in the third quarter, it was like, all right, this is just Suns basketball. We're back to it, and we can finally get back to the real season now that everybody's healthy.
And it's not just something that you can bank on because this team comes out with a firepower and an ability to just outscore teams. That is also a credit to Mike Budenholzer, that consistently at halftime, he is not just drinking lemonade and having orange slices to get ready for the next half. He is making adjustments that are clearly working and that show when the playoffs come around, he has the ability to do that for this team. And so I think this is just as much a credit to the Suns as it is the Suns coaching staff and Mike Budenholzer in particular. So that is something immediately that I had noticed too about this team, is that they come out of the second half just firing on all cylinders.
Doubled the Lakers up.
I would much rather have that than the other way around. I'd much rather be talking about slow starts than really sloppy finishes. And it's not to say the Suns have had slow starts. They went into the half with a lead.
Yeah.
But they went into the half with the lead and then showed up and just steamrolled this team, and that has been a trend throughout the beginning of the season. It almost feels like the season stopped for 5-6 days.
I will tell you, it felt like that
back.
watching games and doing this podcast. So
well, yeah, and so like when all these guys came back, everything just felt easier, just felt better. I'm not sure. I mean, it just felt like the offense moved better. And it felt like seeing Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal out there, it almost had that Tyus Jones effect where everyone was breathing lighter because those guys were out there. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you felt too, but that's how I felt about it.
Yeah, look, I mean, we'll dig through a lot of the rest of it, but that stretch just felt like a perfect example of how easy it can look. But what was yours?
So for me, it wasn't necessarily, like, saying moment, I don't think it was a moment of like what swung the game in either way. For me, it was like hey guys, we're back. That Bradley Beal chase down block on LeBron James, I was like, oh, the Bradley Beal that we talked about, his defense taking a step up, him not taking plays off. I joked with the guy next to me and said, hey, buddy, why don't you slow it down? We kind of need you for the rest of the season. But that block on LeBron kind of showed me like, hey, guys, take a deep breath. We're back and we can boat race teams. And that is not just like a symbolic moment in the game where they were already going to win. They were up double digits. They were killing this team. It was like a symbolic moment for everyone that was saying, I saw it on Twitter, I saw it on social media, oh, this team can't beat the Knicks. They can't be competitive without these two other guys. Yeah, any team without two All-Stars is going to be significantly worse. And that was my argument for it. So that's kind of where I was at with it.
Absolutely. 6 minutes, 40 seconds left in the game. That's when that block happened on a breakaway layup for LeBron, and he kind of gave it a second look like,
yeah,
did I just get blocked like that? I mean,
I thought he was hurt.
Father Time is kind of, sneaking up on LeBron slowly but surely, and he probably, frankly, didn't expect it from Bradley Beal, who has not always been that kind of player, but when you talk about picking up where this team left off, that's how he's been playing this season, and so it wasn't a surprise if you've been watching this Suns team. But coming off of a calf strain and with all the inconsistencies on the defensive end that we know this team fell into last year for sure, and it was rough during that injury-riddled stretch, it's just nice to remember they're getting this version of Beal, and it's kind of just how we have to build into what we expect from this group, and doesn't seem like the injury took that away from him at all.
Between the big three, which I know there are some people that like to say it's not a big three, it absolutely is.
Like that guy who comments first on every video we publish.
So Nacho, that's who that is. That's the person that everyone thinks is my burner. That's because sometimes he'll say nice things about me. Okay. That's the people that's which I want people to think that. I think that's hilarious.
Shout out, love you, everydayer, but
it's a big three. It's a big
okay
three.
To say that. I don't know.
But out of those three guys, Bradley Beal to me, and they were all offensively roughly the same guy. Even Booker had a plus, basically 30 in the plus minus, which is a weird stat. You really have to watch the game to understand it. But I thought Beal tonight was by far and away the best player. Offensively, he looked spry. Defensively, he was really good. Well, and he just looked healthy. He was
put in a bad spot to start the game because they ran the same exact set twice, and then he got like a hot potato corner three.
Yeah.
And he ended up having to take two bad shots. One, he got a nice pass off in the very first possession. Then he took the two quick kind of forced shots just because you had to. And it's like, all right, that's a rough way to start the game from a rhythm standpoint. But then what does he do? He knocks down 2 threes immediately and ends up with the most efficient line of anybody in this whole entire game, in addition to some of those defensive moments. So absolutely shout out to him. What I wanted to go back to momentarily on the third quarter, because I wasn't sure if you might go there, which is why I left it open-ended and didn't do the whole third quarter and whatnot. Yusuf Nurkic came out and scored 9 points on 5 straight field goal attempts to open this quarter.
It's not possible, Brendan.
It reminded me a lot of the Dallas game because he did basically the exact same thing in that game where he was up and down in the first half. Dallas said, we're just going to go small, we're going to switch, we're going to not really treat you as a threat. And Bud has shown that he's not going to bail early. I mean, we've seen him bench Nurk, we've seen him go away from him, all that stuff we've talked about, but this team was trying to switch Rui Hachimura onto him and different things like that, and he even made a 3 in this stretch to kind of start off what became that avalanche in the third quarter, so wanted to shout Nurk out as well.
Game Time has a new feature for your ticket buying experience called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. No one wants to do that. Curation makes it easier to save more, to save time, to save money on concerts, sports, comedy, theater, and more near you. You take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
The Houston Rockets clinched their cup group with a 117-111 gut check overtime win. Madison, this game was an emotional roller coaster. It looked like the Rockets were firmly in control. They led by as many as 18. They watched that lead slip away. You're watching Anthony Edwards kind of start to cook and take over a little bit. You think, oh man, this is it. And the Rockets managed to pull it out of the mud. They forced OT. They got the win. Tell me how you're feeling after this game, man.
Man, I feel great, dog. I mean, these Rockets are rolling, dog. And I love the way they kind of got it out the mud. We've seen these Rockets go through so many iterations of their offense, especially down the stretch. It's really enlightening to see them grow into the team that they're growing in, how their offense is growing, how they're figuring out how this chemistry is really coming together. And I feel like this was like another hurdle the young Rockets had to jump. You know, going up big, losing a big lead to a really good team. I mean, this team was in the Western Conference Finals last year, and they are led by one of the top five player. You know what I mean? And so for the Rockets to withstand that type of comeback on the backs of their defense, on the back of Alperen Sengun, it was really enlightening to see, and really just good to see our guys play for one another and move the ball. And now we're starting to see guys get more in the rhythm and make more shots.
This was absolutely an inspiring win, and you know what a win means now here at Locked On Rockets.
Release the hounds.
Go find the Locked On Wolves YouTube channel and go let them know Locked On Rockets sent you in the comment section over there. All right, Madison, we got to talk about the end of this game, though. The end of this game was just, I'm talking, like, this was maybe one of the most intense games that I've witnessed in recent Rockets memory. My heart was pounding. Like, it was literally pounding at the end of regulation here. Rockets managed to pitch a shutout, though. First off, this was a big time, I think, second half from Alperen Sengun. He really struggled in the first half, only 2 points. Really looked like he was, I don't want to say second guessing himself, but maybe trying to facilitate a little bit too much.
Yes.
Yeah, he had like 5 or 6 dimes.
Yeah,
by
no, he was
halftime.
facilitating. Yeah.
But there were definitely some shots that he first off missed that he should have made in the first half. Some point blank gimmies that he normally hits, and some moments where you thought, no, you need to be aggressive. You need to not be looking to pass as much. He did have a couple turnovers in this game. He had 20 of his 22 in the second half. He was a big driving force for the Rockets, building that 18-point lead and then being able to close this game out at the end of regulation and in overtime. But the guy that I want to talk about here for a moment first, got to talk about Amin Thompson and his defense in this game. Dude, he was unbelievable. So the Rockets starters plus Amin Thompson really locked in and brought this game home. At the end of regulation, Amin Thompson checked back in for Jalen Green with 2.5 minutes to go. The Wolves led 102-97. And then in that stretch, first off, the Wolves were held scoreless for those final 2.5 minutes of regulation. But in that stretch of time, Amin Thompson drew a charge on Julius Randle. Then on the very next possession, after a Fred VanVleet missed three-pointer, he ripped Rob Dillingham, who, again, got a little too big for his britches there, right? He tried to do a little bit too much at the end of regulation. You just got to find your star player, get the ball to Anthony Edwards. But he rips Rob Dillingham, goes the other way, coast-to-coast layup to tie the game at 102. A huge play for Amin Thompson. I mean, look, this was, and this doesn't even include, he gets to overtime, right? He hits the game-tying three in overtime. Rockets are down 105-102 right at the start of overtime. Gets a corner three-pointer, hits it with zero hesitation. That starts this 11-0 run for the Rockets to close out the Wolves in OT. I mean, Amin Thompson was an absolute difference maker in this game for Houston.
Yeah, man, I really love the inspired play by Amin. I would have liked to see him more on Ant in the beginning of the game, but he found his way there towards the end, right? And we got to see all the plays that Amin made all day. I think he had about 7 stocks tonight. Yeah. You know, just incredible all over the place. And like you said, offensively, letting his defense lead to offense and really breaking the seal on the basket for the Rockets when they go through some of these really trudge and really gritty stretches where it's hard for them to put the ball in the basket. Sometimes you just need that one play that gets the offense going. And Amin often leads with his defense to break that seal on the basket. But then with the 3-point shot. I mean, this is Ahmed's biggest weakness, a huge shot. The Rockets go back down 3. We don't know if our team is still out of rhythm. The team had been out of rhythm the whole fourth quarter, or at least the back half of the fourth quarter leading into overtime. And it seemed to have started in the beginning of overtime. But when he hit that 3, you could just see the Rockets offense settle down and really start to execute, really start to lock down on defense and allow that to get them in rhythm and really let this team kind of, blossom down the stretch and in the ways that we love to see these Rockets grow. So, man, shout out to Ahmed for really getting these guys ignited, and shout out to Şengün for another triple-double, really inspiring play in the second half of this game, really carrying this Rockets offense throughout the second half of this game.
And for Şengün, first off, that Amin Thompson 3, it was an Amin Thompson 3, and then for the Rockets 11-0 run, Jabari hit a 2, Şengün hit a 2, then DB hit a 2, then Şengün hit another, kind of the final shot to really put this game away. And he, after that final that turnaround shot over Gobert, he hit him with the too small at midcourt, and everybody was around him. Amin Thompson put the too small thing down there. Fred was loving it. DB was loving it. It was a great little run, great retaliation from the Rockets after going down, after having to, claw back and force overtime from having that big lead. But Şengün's defense, man, as frustrating as the offense was for him in the first half, he found himself, he played like himself in the second half, and he still had a couple moments in the second half, some misses where he thought, man, this is, uncharacteristic missed shots from Alperen Şengün. But his defense in this game was flat out unbelievable. He had 3 steals, 3 blocks to go along with this triple-double. So Şengün on the night, 22 points, 9 of 23 shooting. Again, he struggled in the first half, but he was 4-4 at the free throw line, 11 assists, 10 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 blocks. He was everywhere. Yeah. Şengün drew a charge at the end of the game on not a charge, but an offensive foul on Rudy Gobert, right? Rudy Gobert was jostling for positioning under the basket, and Şengün had been fighting with him all night long. And so his defense really was sensational in this game.
Yeah, and just to add, I mean, he had a ton of plays he made down the stretch of this game. There was a big block on Rob Dillingham in the fourth quarter when they were really making a run and we really needed to get stops. Şengün continues to impress with his positioning and sneaky shot blocking activity. And also the trap on Anthony Edwards at the top. Man, that's just heady basketball, because that trap, you can tell it was something that developed naturally from good one-on-one basketball, and Alperen Şengün recognizing that and using the baseline to trap him and force an errant pass and a turnover. Those are the type of things that you have to make winning plays, and that's why we knew with Şengün's IQ, even though he didn't have all the physical attributes to be this incredible defender, he had the mind to start to make these type of plays and win with positioning and sneaky athleticism. And so, shout out to Şengün, man. Our two-way big, man. It's good to see.
Hey, he's graduated from an offensive phenom to a straight-up two-way big. He's the two-way presence. Dylan Brooks called him the anchor the other night, and he was absolutely the anchor in this game for the Rockets.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. You could take an early look at some Thanksgiving football lines. The Lions are massive favorites in their first game of the day against the Bears. FanDuel has Detroit laying 10.5. I kind of like the Bears. Is that weird? FanDuel also doesn't feel like Caleb Williams and company will put up a lot of points. The Bears total over-under set at 18.5. I might take the over and the Bears to cover. I bet I can get some nice plus odds on that. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
The Bucks outlast the Heat in Miami.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast.
You kind of wondered with no Giannis if this was going to be a spot for Pat Connaughton to reemerge. We saw that. Doc Rivers gave a little insights on that afterwards. We'll get to. But Marjan Beauchamp with some first half run as well. He did knock down a 3-pointer. And I mean, I don't want to make too much out of it, but I think he gave you some pretty good defense in the minutes that he was on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to feel good for Marjan, right? A guy that really kind of going back to last season, right? Played a fair bit early last season. He's a guy that basically played. If you go back and look to the game log, he played a lot under Bud his first year in the early part of the season. Had some really encouraging games. I mean, like, it's kind of sad in a way to look back at remember some of the games he had early in his rookie season, and he had some encouraging games early last season as well. And then it's just been this thing these first 2 years that he basically just kind of, his star kind of just fell as the season went on. And obviously by the end of last season, AJ and Ajax were kind of well ahead of him, I'd say, in the pecking order. And, Marjan just felt like he was kind of banished to the doghouse. And I think Doc would have acknowledged, like, he really, hadn't really gotten a chance to see Marjan play much in games, right? Having not coached them or been through camp. And obviously summer league and preseason, like, didn't really change that. Doesn't have his option picked up. A guy who has every reason to kind of be down and probably not respond in the way that you would want if he got this kind of random opportunity almost out of nowhere. So for him to kind of stay ready and come in early in a game, right? Which I'm sure all of us kind of, when he came in, I was like, is there somebody else missing that am I forgetting, like, other than Giannis? But for him to come in, and just look competent, right? I mean, he blended in, made quick decisions, hit that open three after, a pump fake and a kind of sidestep. Again, obviously we didn't see much of him thereafter, but, like I said, he's one of those guys, and I'm sure probably having a much better, bus ride, flight home than he's had in quite a while. And again, I don't know that that's going to be indicative of more opportunities, moving forward. But, again, I think it's just a good thing for the team, for the locker room, that kind of everybody gets a chance. And that's obviously kind of what the art and, the kind of the art and science of coaching is, knowing when to call a guy's number who maybe hasn't been playing. And who knows, right? Maybe there was something Doc saw in practice recently or something like that, and you wanted to give him a look. But, kudos to Marjan for being ready and, delivering at least that little shot in the arm when the Bucks were going on a run, right? They had a nice run to start the second quarter, and that kind of really, obviously they were leading kind of from the outset, but then I think it was down to 8 at some point late in the first quarter, and then they really extended the lead in that second quarter, and he was part of that, with Dame on the bench. I thought that was one of the really key parts. If the Bucks had won in a blowout, I probably would look back at that early second quarter period when Dame was on the bench, and they really sustained and expanded the lead even a little bit, as one of the more crucial parts of the game. Obviously there were other parts, given that the lead eventually kind of vanished entirely, but yeah, Marjan doing his thing. And we probably want to talk about Pat as well, because we talked about it. Pat played well in his last bit of action in Charlotte, whenever it was, a week and a half ago. Misses 4 games, they win them all. And I thought he gave them a nice boost tonight as well, in both halves.
Yeah, I thought Pat played really well tonight. And Doc said after the game that, with no Giannis, I remember what game was it that Giannis missed earlier that he missed and Bobby Portis started in his place, and you wondered, are they going to start Bobby and basically exhaust all of your bigs right out the gates? And they did. They did not tonight. And Doc said, we knew we had to reserve that, but we also knew we're going to need threes. So we went to small ball, and that's why you saw Pat Connaughton playing a lot. That's why you saw Marjan Beauchamp back out there, and that's why we started both Ajax and AJ Green. But Pat Connaughton, I think we talked about this last time too. I think in the minutes he's been on the floor, I think he's played well overall. It's just he's a 10-year vet that the athleticism is not what it once was, and that's what stands out the most. But he's still the guy that was creating shots and creating offense by cutting to the basket. That's really what they missed the most when Dame was off the floor, is you wondered, okay, these are mostly shooters. So where is the offensive creation going to come from? And as we've seen time and again, it's pretty much Pat Connaughton that you leave it to. Not that that's the greatest thing, but he's the guy that's able to do that. So just the way that, you mentioned coaching and the nuances of finding the right plays or the right spots for guys. That's one thing that's stood out to me the most during this run with Doc Rivers is, for as many bullets as Doc Rivers takes, I think he's done a pretty good job of managing that this year and saying, okay, Pat Connaughton's out, as he would say, not out of the rotation, but we have guys that have eclipsed him now that we're back to close to full strength. But Pat Connaughton staying ready is a credit to him and getting those opportunities when you need. And even stuff like, I know we'll probably get to in more detail, but Andre Jackson Jr., you continue to see the good with the bad, and in many instances in the same sequence where he'll make the great play.
Within seconds of each other.
Right. But I suppose it's a credit to Doc Rivers that with a handful of coaches at least, he's just not going to play because you just look at, okay, the offense is really killing me. It's going to be tough here. So I'm just going to somebody else. I'm going to Pat Connaughton. To Doc's credit, we have not seen that. And you've seen limited minutes at times for Ajax. He talked about it after the game too, that last turnover where you really had a chance to ice the game. He said it was something we worked on during practice and during the walkthrough today of don't pass it in the nail in those spots because Miami has great length. They have guys with good hands. They're going to steal the ball. And he did it. But I knew I didn't want to yank him. I didn't want to yell at him. It wasn't the time and place. It's something that we'll go through in more film study tomorrow.
It's kind of funny with Andre, and it's funny. I've had these discussions with Eric about his nickname, and Eric's always said like, look, the other players like would never like. We were talking about Ajax as a nickname, and Eric was saying like, well, the other players don't call him Ajax, so therefore like Eric didn't really like the nickname. And I was like, well, it's really like if the announcers call you that becomes your nickname because that's what the fans hear and like whatever, right? Like maybe it starts as like a Twitter message board thing, but then if Lisa and Marcus use it and they've started to use Ajax, but I think I heard in some press conferences them call him Ajax. So Ajax may be his like locker room nickname, or like at least one of them for now. But or Dre, I know they call him Dre too, but
Dre is yeah.
Dre, I don't know, too simple to me.
So are you saying Derry Bird isn't an actual nickname?
Well, look, I really hope that Pale Ellis would catch on for AJ Green. I don't know if enough fans know who Dale Ellis was and how good a 3-point shooter he was. He played for the Bucks when I first started following them. I'm sure you, Justin, remember those days back in the like 90-91 season or something. Might have been his last season with Milwaukee. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, Andre is funny because it's just hilarious to look back on kind of the scouting report of him. I mean, again, not that people were saying that he was, this great offensive player, right? And he averaged like freaking 6 points on terrible efficiency in college. So clearly there were limitations there. But everything was about his 3-point shooting was so bad. But it was like, his basketball IQ and his ball handling and playmaking, all that. And like, the only thing that I actually like feel like I know what I'm going to get from is his 3-point shooting on offense. Like the only thing, obviously his hustle is always there. But like, he's actually been like remarkably consistently solid as a 3-point shooter, like his entire, which I know it's only like, 1.25 seasons now, but that's like actually been kind of his like most adequate thing that he does offensively. Obviously defense, like especially the second year, he's been awesome. But offensively, like, man, his decision-making is just like so anxiety inducing. Like it's just Yeah,
I was going to say, you could say when he gets the ball in his hands, he has concepts of a plan for what he's going to do offensively, but there's no concrete details of here's how I'm going to attack.
Yeah, there is some natural passing ability. Like I think there's passing touch, and he's super unselfish, but the kind of like basketball IQ, knowing what you can get away with and can and can't get away with against NBA defenses, right? That is obviously still very much evolving, right? And the knowing when to sort of not do something, right? Errors of omission and commission, there's still a lot of both. And so the passing, like, make some really nice passes, but then just try for things. It's like, oh my god, like it's just like, and he doesn't turn it over a ton, right? It's not like he has like tons of turnovers.
It just stands
when he
out.
does, it's always like
it's inopportune times. Yeah.
And I think I tweeted the other day, he took, what was it? Was it in the last game or 2 games ago that he took like 2 floaters from like really far out? And it was just
I
like,
think it was 2 games ago. Yeah.
I mean, he has this knack, like he doesn't want to shoot a mid-range jump shot. So he just sort of flings it with, like a floater.
It was like a catapult.
My comment was, yeah, and I just like my take is like every floater he shoots just looks like, the worst shot ever taken in an NBA game. It just looks like so weird. But 3 plays, so he had 3 baskets tonight. Didn't have any threes. He had one really nice slip of a screen from Dame. Dame fired it right down the middle, caught it, went up, dunked it.
No
Beautiful,
hesitation. Yep.
Simple catch, dunk. Yes, we like that. But then I thought but then I thought the 2 plays after that, he had a transition take where he, again, it wasn't, like a Giannis level dribble through the entire defense thing, but got a pass and angled his way down. I think he, acrobatically finished. I think it was with his left hand too, in transition, which was awesome. Maybe that one was his right hand, but finished in transition, which love to see, right? He's the only Buck who's athletic in the open court other than Giannis. And so for him to begin to weaponize that a little bit is great. And then I thought the last one was probably the most impressive, which was late shot clock. I think he caught on the left wing, attacks off the bounce, and just good body control in the air, finishes. I think that one was with the left hand, just beating the shot clock. And that was, I think at that point, I forget what the Bucks' advantage was at that point, but it had started to shrink. And so for him to show that confidence, and again, like part of it is that we've talked about it, like other than Dame with no Chris, like the Bucks don't have a lot of guys you want with the ball in their hands late in the shot clock. You have a lot of guys who, it's like they catch it, they're kind of feeling like, what do I do with it? And for him to just like realize like, okay, I got to go up with it. I got to do something with this ball. I can't just hot potato it to the next guy, which is often what these guys do. For him to just go in attack mode and have enough awareness with the shot clock, or who knows, maybe he didn't know what the shot clock was and it just so happened to work out. But that was a really impressive play, which a lot of guys can't make because they just don't have his physical tool set. So you just kind of hope that like him doing this in game, we know that Doc and the coaching staff are encouraging him to take shots like that and to use his athleticism like that. So for him to do that in game action, in important situations, especially like that's great to see. And to me, if he can hit 30%, right? He's been above that in his career so far, but if he can hit just 30, low 30s from 3 and do what we're describing, like twice a game, like
perfect.
I just think that changes how he gets perceived and defended, so that was just really encouraging to see. And of course the defense, what he was doing, I think there was a play in the first quarter where like he stole the ball, but it wasn't even, I didn't even see it on the broadcast because like they were focusing on something else because you don't expect the guy to steal the ball so soon after the
Was it Doc Rivers bending over?
I think he forced the 8 second another time. So it's just really, just really good stuff to see from him. And obviously they needed it because they were down their number one weapon here when Giannis.
Yeah, he had those moments, and again, it's the good with the bad that you take with Ajax as he continues to develop on the offensive side. So just looking for those growth moments, but those 3 plays that you described were what stood out the most to me, especially the one where he just attacked and went straight to the basket when Miami was trapping Dame, and he knew I got to score, and it's wide open for me with my athleticism. So here I'm going to attack. So continuing to see that is going to be huge for him. Like we've seen him, I don't know if they fully moved away from it, but when it was Ajax in the dunker spot and you realized you just got to shoot this man. He's too unselfish for his own good that you're clogging up the space, especially those minutes that Giannis is on the floor. So maybe we see that reemerge and seeing Ajax kind of, or Dre, Ajax learn from that